Today, Israeli officials claim their forces rescued a soldier who had been captured by Hamas militants in the October 7 terrorist attack. Private Ori Megadish is said to be in good condition and has been reunited with her family, according to a joint statement from the Israel Defense Forces and the Shin Bet Security Service. This comes just hours after the military wing of Hamas released a chilling video showing 3 female hostages, one who was speaking critically of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government. However, it's unclear if she's speaking on her own volition or is reading Hamas propaganda from a script. It all comes as Israel has intensified its attack against the Gaza Strip, both by air and on the ground. Yet even as Gaza's health ministry says the death toll has surpassed 8,000, Prime Minister Netanyahu today forcefully rejected calls for a ceasefire.
Just as the United States would not agree to a ceasefire after the bombing of Pearl Harbor or after the terrorist attack of 9/11, Israel will not agree to a cessation of hostilities with Hamas after the horrific attacks of October 7th. Calls for a ceasefire are calls for Israel to surrender to Hamas, to surrender to terrorism, to surrender to barbarism. That will not happen.
Joining me now is Peter Beinart, editor-at-large of Jewish Currents, author of the Beinart Notebook on Substack, and an MSNBC political analyst. Peter, it's great to see you. Bibi Netanyahu brought up 9/11. What we did after 9/11 was bomb a country bin Laden was not in and then start a war in a country that had nothing to do with 9/11. So I'm really not sure that analogy really works for him. But what did you make of it?
Right. I mean, like the United States, Israel has the capacity to go in and depose hostile governments because that is a powerful military. But what the United States learned in very difficult ways was that it's easy to get in. It's very difficult to get out. And that is, and you may look strong at the beginning when you depose the government because Israel wants to show strength now, but you end up looking very weak when you're in a quagmire. Nobody that I have heard in the Israeli government or their supporters here has a good answer to the question of what happens after they depose this Hamas government. No one in Israel wants to stay in Gaza because they know that they will be dealing with an insurgency that will be killing Israeli soldiers as long as they're there. But any government that they try to prop up, any Palestinian government they try to prop up will collapse the minute they leave. This is basically the same problem the U.S. had in Afghanistan and Iraq. And instead of invoking 9/11 to say, we're going to do what you did, I think Israelis would be wiser to learn from our mistakes after 9/11.
The other thing he brought up was after, the Pearl Harbor attack. By the time that the United States dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the war was essentially over. We obliterated 2 entire cities, really for no war purpose. And if you watch Oppenheimer and you watch the documentary, it was in part because we wanted to see what it would do. We're the only country that's ever dropped a nuclear weapon. We're the only one. So I'm not sure that analogy works because it does seem like meting out needless suffering isn't a good excuse for meting out needless suffering.
No, in fact, not only is it just fundamentally wrong to kill innocent people who had nothing to do with the evil attack that Hamas committed on October 7th, we know that Hamas recruits its fighters from the families of people who were killed by Israel, right? So for every person you kill, it's not just that is immoral to kill innocent people. It's also that you are producing the next generation of fighters who you will be having to deal with a generation later. And even if it's not called Hamas, it's Hamas 3.0. The truth is the Palestinians have been fighting against Israel and resisting Israel since the very beginning and will continue to, sometimes in ethical ways and sometimes in horrific ways, until they have their basic rights, because that's what all human beings do. All human beings resist oppression. The United States was not occupying Japan when Pearl Harbor happened. Israel is occupying millions of Palestinians in the West Bank, and yes, also in Gaza, because it controls it. It's like a prison. It controls it with Egypt from the perimeter. And if you treat people that way, they are going to fight back. And so what's really important for Israel and the United States to do is to try to strengthen those Palestinians who resist ethically, who do so in the name of human rights and mutual coexistence and international law, and weaken the people who do the horrors like Hamas did. And what I fear is that again and again we have done the opposite. When Palestinians have gone to the UN, when they've gone to the International Criminal Court, when they've talked about nonviolent tactics like boycotts and divestment and sanctions, you don't have to support every single one of those. But if you oppose all of them and you even criminalize them in the United States, as we have done, by saying you can't get a job in state government unless you sign a pledge saying you'll never boycott Israel, you know what you're doing? You're sending the message to Hamas that nonviolence, that ethical resistance doesn't work. And that strengthens Hamas. It doesn't mean that anyone except Hamas is responsible. Of course, only Hamas is responsible, but it sends the message that ethical resistance doesn't work, and that's very dangerous.
You know, and there's also the climate issue, right? That we've created a climate now where people who are just marching for Palestinians to have rights and to have self-determination and for there to be a Palestine are being doxxed, are being threatened with losing jobs. And every protest that is pro-Palestinian is now being labeled as pro-Hamas, which it isn't. And there is like a chilling effect that people are actually afraid to say anything, even if their moral compass says they don't like the idea of seeing children bombed. People are afraid to even say that.
Right. I mean, we're in a terrifying climate because anti-Semitism is rising. And I know very, very firsthand that almost everyone in the Jewish community is very, very, very terrified about this, about what's happening. And there's also a tremendous amount of anti-Palestinian racism. And that often doesn't get named. We don't even have a term for anti-Palestinian racism. But we're seeing that these colleges are getting doxxed. There's somebody having to leave college. They're now even talking about basically banning Students for Justice in Palestine. I have my disagreements with Students for Justice in Palestine, but they have the right to free speech. And the idea that Ron DeSantis is saying he's just going to ban them from Florida campuses, that we have to, seems to me, to come together to defend each other's rights, that Jews have the right to be safe on America's campuses. Jews have the right to speak freely, even if you disagree with some of us. And Palestinians have those same rights. And ultimately, our safety is intertwined. It's intertwined in Israel-Palestine, and it's intertwined here in the United States as well.
Peter Beinart, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be able to speak with you, even in horrible times like these. Thank you. We'll be right back.